Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. Thankful Friday. Let's be grateful. Let's all come together and take one nice big inhalation together. Exhaling it all out. Taking a moment to recapture your breath. Re-inspire. Take in that prana, that precious life force. Just inhale all the way up. Exhale out all the bullshit. Take it all in. This is the breath of life. This is the breath of God. That every time you take an inhalation, you are taking spirit in. In spirit, inspiration. What inspires us is the spirit within us. What is your purpose? It is driven by that soul, that spirit. Inspirazione. I love languages. I love words. Because there's meaning, there's energy that comes with it all. You cannot deny the words and how they give meaning. They color our worlds. They are what give us purpose. They describe that purpose. There's poetry in languaging, and why it is so critical and beautiful that you choose your words carefully and recognize where it all originates. What kinds of thoughts go through your mind? Are you a hypercritical overthinker, perfectionist? How does your mind work? Round and round we go, where we'll stop, nobody knows. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And isn't it though? The truth is, it's a lucid dream. If you really think about it, you get to steer the boat of your life. How many of you out there are living a purpose-driven life? Let me know in the comments. Do you know what your purpose is? Because a lot of people don't. And there's one thing I had to touch upon the past couple days has been the disconnect. Over this past year, each and every person out there, all walks of life, have been affected. Lana in Naples, Italy, 2012. A friend of mine had these made for me when I was still over there. The truth is, all of our worlds got turned upside down to be shaken up so the cobwebs could be removed, so that we could remember what really is important in our lives. Do you know what's important to your life? Do you have a legacy to pass on? Do you have something that inspires you to jump out of bed every morning like, this is my life, this is why I'm here? If you don't, you feeling the lack? Are you feeling that disconnect? Are you recognizing? Because this is what I had to sit with over several weeks. I've finally came to the conclusion the other day that, oh my gosh, I'm a goal-oriented person. I'm somebody who sets a goal and reaches it. But once I've reached a goal, I have to consider what's next, because that's how life is. That once you attain your goal and you're successful, because success, at the heart of success, has to be a goal. You can't have success without having a vision to attain something that is success. So for myself, I was, years ago, I had a list. I wanted to get my degree before I turned 25. I wanted to be able to buy a house by the age of 25. I had so many different things that I wanted to explore. and to do in my life. And I did them. And then I didn't have a list. And when you don't have purpose, you don't have a goal, you don't feel relevant. In fact, especially if you're not essential, you don't feel essential. You don't feel you have something to contribute. There's that, well, what's missing in my life? You know what's missing? Your laser beam focus toward a goal, toward a vision, toward your purpose. That was the big wake up for me the other day. And I did a video on my personal page last night. And that brought up some things I didn't even realize was going to stir my own stuff. And what I mean by stir my own stuff, I mean like I had to revisit. I've been revisiting all day today what I went through years ago that has made me, that didn't break me because of my constitution, my personal belief system around what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a true statement. And I'm living proof of it. I don't know a lot of people out there that would have been able to tolerate, let alone get along or go through what I've been through in my life. And I realize that and I recognize that and I honor that in myself. Because here's the thing. What you do for others, if you're a person who subscribes to the golden rule, we tend to often give what we would want done unto us, do for others what we would want to be done for us. The golden rule of humanity is do unto others as you would want done unto you. So therefore, what have we been all conditioned to think we should be doing in this life? We're supposed to take care of everybody else and we're supposed to come last. It's not just religious based. It's all over society. You know, you got to think of others first. You're supposed to virtue signal to show you care. There's a whole guilt and shame around it. There's punishment and reward associated with it. That if you don't go along and get along, you'll be ostracized and cast aside. And I've already experienced it all. And that's what came up last night and what came up all day today is I didn't even realize. That's been weighing on my heart, my shoulder. I've been carrying that baggage for over 12 years. I spent over 10 years in the Air Force. I went into government contracting. I was a success. I had it all. I was making over 6 figures. I was living a lavish luxury lifestyle in Italy. I could do whatever I wanted. I had the respect of my colleagues. I didn't have to submit applications and resumes for jobs unless I wanted something specific. But to be truly honest, I was approached. I was offered positions and jobs. The job I took in Naples, Italy, was a result of the work that I did when I was in the Air Force, working at DIA and the Pentagon. I worked with defense messaging systems. That was my arena. I worked in the intel community. I was highly respected for my work, and I was known to be resourceful. That if you gave me a job, I would follow through, and I would do it through and through. I would give 1,000+% of myself. I would work overtime without question, because that's just who I am. I go above and beyond. It's not even a question of what I'm getting in return. It just feels right. It's just a part of my fiber, my being. In everything I've ever done, in every walk of life, anybody who's ever known me. But over the past years, I've been working on my healing because what happened? What happened when I was in Italy that I finally sat with, like, wow, why didn't I see it all? 46 years old, I'm sitting here going, oh wow, I looked in the mirror this morning and I was like, universe, couldn't you have shown this to me 12 years ago? Given me a lot more insight in how to go about handling it? Because the truth of the matter is, my reputation was destroyed deliberately, at my expense, others who felt threatened by my professionalism, my drawing attention to the lack of management. I was threatened. I was the one with the medical disability, but yet I was the one who was basically used as the sacrificial lamb. And I was even told the only way to get my job back would be to fall upon the sword and beg for it back. My entire character reference was destroyed. And I went through a major life change back then. I didn't even know the extent to which it was. But because I've re-experienced it over the years, and I didn't get it and didn't get it and didn't get it, because that's what happens. Life throws these lessons, kind of, we call them blessings without bows, gifts without the bows. It wasn't packaged so neat and nice. That defamation of character, that blacklisting, that the whistleblower gets, the whistleblower is the one who gets the retribution. And in the end, I was left in a foreign country to fend for myself. The company I worked for totally abandoned me. Oh yeah, you know, they tell you to your face, we'll support you, we'll check into it. I was looking for someone to back me up, when meanwhile I was always backing everyone up. I was working in a hostile work environment where nobody wanted to speak up for anybody else. Does this sound familiar? Everybody was under the watchful scrutiny because there was such a rift in our office environment. Because management wasn't properly mentoring their Navy sailors. Instead, they let them run around like wild children with no guidance. Because the buddy system's all about, you know, I'm afraid, you know, to ruffle feathers, and God forbid, you know, good old boys network is all about, I'll rub your back if you rub mine. I experienced it firsthand. I even experienced it while I was in the Air Force. But this one destroyed my entire livelihood. It meant I no longer could work in that environment because I was blacklisted, because I was used as an example and as a sacrificial lamb, because the company I worked for, number one, they were already upset that I was raising flags and bringing attention to the fact that the company I worked for didn't speak up for the people. And they had put people in place as a result of favoritism and the buddy system. So all of us who were trying to find some form of justice, support, we felt ourselves like redheaded stepchildren, I think it's called. Like, literally, there were a group of us that were like, what do we do? The only reason we didn't get fired from the company was because we submitted to our human resources complaints about our management. On top of that, I was speaking directly with the government service people, telling them the problems that we were experiencing, trying to find solutions. But top that off with the whole, you know, inability to work amongst hostile individuals who have no respect, because that's essentially what the office environment was. It was every day like cringe-worthy. Walk in, get to your desk. What do I do? You know, I just want to get my job done and go home. Do my 8 hours and go home. It was that bad. There was such tension in the office, you could cut it with a knife. And because we had changed offices, and I had this one sailor he had a lot of resentment toward me. He'd let that stuff fester inside of him because I had pointed out that he wouldn't stop cursing in the office, that we worked in a help desk, that when the phones were up and I was on the phone with a general or a flag officer, he would be cursing like, what the F? And he would say it and have no regard or professionalism. We call it military bearing if you're military. It's disrespecting others. It's disrespectful. It's actually, when you continue the behavior after you've been reprimanded, it's grounds for an Article 15. Sometimes if it gets pushed because you disrespect, you can be discharged with a dishonorable or less than honorable discharge. So this particular day, I just happened to be on the phone and I could not hear. He chose, conveniently, the space in front of me. We were in cubicles, but in an open office space. It was a huge open call center. And on the other side of me was him. And I'm like, really? He could have chosen anywhere else. He chose the desk on the opposite side of me. And they were like a, kind of like a glass, plexiglass-ish separator, divider. You couldn't see through it. It was smoked. But it was a good level high. It was probably about this high, so you could still see over it if you stood up. I was on the phone and I couldn't hear my customer. I tapped my knuckle just like this. And I said, could you please lower your voice? I can't hear my customer. After about 20 minutes, he had let that fester from previous, and he stood up. And he stood up with his finger pointing at me and he said, you better watch yourself. I've had it. I'm coming after you. I've had enough of this. Like, he was full on threatening me, going off on me. Well, I sat in my chair. I wasn't at all attacking or reacting. But finally, when their new chief, they had a new chief that came in. Navy chief is the person that oversees the military. When he walked in, he looked at him and he pointed his finger, Slocum, stop, come with me. And I thought to myself, finally, we have leadership. Finally, is there somebody who's going to speak to this individual about his inability to contain his behavior, his emotions, to regain his military bearing? I proceeded to sit in my chair and I was a little bit like freaked out because it wasn't necessary. I just simply made a request. And that's what I said to him. I said, all I did was ask you to lower your voice. I couldn't hear my customer. I made a simple request. Did not warrant violence. It did not warrant disparaging nor abusive language, which is what I was on the receiving end of. This entire time, I had cervical spine issues. I was dealing with the medical disability and never once during these months thought that I should use my short-term or my long-term disability. If I knew then what I know now, I would have been out on my disability. But because my own mindset, my strong will and integrity says, no, I'm still able to work. If I can make it to work, then I'm able to work. Not everybody has that same constitution. Most people wouldn't even think twice. A lot of people would be like, any excuse to get out of the office. But no, I enjoy working and helping people. I've never tried to get out of work. In fact, the only reason I would ever get out of work there was because of the environment. And the unfortunate thing is that I didn't know better. And of course, when you know better, you can do better. So as this day pursued, I went to go have lunch. We were no longer allowed to eat at our desk. We were told we had to leave and go to the break room. I go to the break room. I'm sitting there trying to enjoy my meal, and I'm kicked out of the break room because now I've got some more disrespectful Navy sailors who walk in with an attitude like they have to have a meeting in the break room. It was not a meeting space. And I was feeling doubly attacked. I was feeling like, my gosh, what the heck? Can I get a break? It was my time. I have this time, and this person can't even be considerate enough to let me enjoy my meal. She was like, she stood over me, waiting for me to finish taking bites of my food. It made me nauseous and like choke up in my throat. Any of you who've ever experienced this, please let me know. As a result of all of this, I later found out, I was taken aside, not even a direct conversation. I got through the grapevine that they're asking for you to be removed because you are the cause of hate and discontent between the government, the military, and the contractors, of which was not my position. That was not my fault. That was not my responsibility. But it was easy to target and to point blame. See? Blame, shame, guilt, punish. There's always someone who takes the fall for those who won't take responsibility at all. These are just some of the examples of abuse of power and corruption from the inside, from my personal experience. As a woman in IT, you already have to work that much harder. And this was 12 years ago. I've been in IT since the 90s, since even before that. After that happened and I went and sat down with, let's say, the chosen person that was sent over from Japan. He was a buddy and apparently had a reputation for not doing any work. Not saying he wasn't qualified, but he literally was disrespectful in the fact that he would sit at his desk and not do his actual paid, hired job. So, here's to you, Kevin Monos. Yeah, thanks. Because instead of supporting me, I was told I should fall upon the sword and beg them for my job back. Not that anybody was doing it for me. I was told I should do that for myself. This was one of the hardest pills to swallow. And I thought, okay, this really sucks. So I was going to do it. Didn't seem right, but I didn't see any other alternatives or options. And I couldn't because they wouldn't give me the opportunity. In fact, the manager on the government side wouldn't even see me. And the irony is that I knew him prior to him becoming government. See, a lot of the guys that were working the government positions over there, Tony and Drew, were hired, but they were there originally they were there at one time, they were Navy, and then they went on to government, they went into contracting, and then they jumped into the government positions. So they kind of, what we call, sealed the deal on staying in Italy until later down the road, they were putting caps on how long you could be an expatriate. You could only stay overseas in certain positions for so long. And I was like, wow, the tables are turned. These same people that I was giving them the information as to what was transpiring with our company and the corruption there were now dismissing me and not even giving me the time of day. In fact, they were punishing me even more. And it was really toward the company, but I was the vessel. I was the sacrificial lamb. Defamation of character. You're not supposed to do that. I was trying to bring to light issues that were hostile and harmful, toxic work environment that I was experiencing, as well as my colleagues. Do you know the worst part about it was, and the unfortunate thing was, not one of my colleagues was willing to speak up for me. Sadly, they were so afraid for their own backs, their own jobs, their own lives, their own livelihoods. They had no problem watching me get thrown on the coals. But God forbid if it had happened to them, I guarantee they would have wanted somebody to speak up for them. This was the problem. This is a problem. Is people don't understand that we are more powerful together. That it's in unity that we make humanity. It is in unity we are the community. We are the power. That when one person is attacked or dismissed or silenced, that's an attack on everybody. If you sit back, you cower, you go, well, I just don't want it to happen to me. Just because you don't speak up for that other person and you know it's not right, doesn't mean it isn't affecting you. Because that sets a precedence for the rest of the people. And it's basically by using one person, they're reinforcing the fear, they're reinforcing their control and the power that doesn't make it right, but that actually takes everybody down. And it depresses people. It keeps you in anxiety. I never checked to see what ended up happening back after I left that environment. I really don't care. Because at that point, I was left I was abandoned. But yet it's ironic because the same people who are like, don't let him steal your peace. I had this one woman and she'd say to me, and it's really sad, and I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but they were rewarding her. They were rewarding her to go along with them. They were promoting her. And here she was, two-faced with me, telling me not to let them steal my peace. But yet she was just as bad as the rest of them. And it's very sad. And I'm going to tell you right now, another woman doing that to another woman, and to top it off, a black woman. That shit pissed me off. I would never have done that to any other woman, black, Asian, what have you. But when you do that to another woman, all that does is speak volumes for you and your lack of integrity. And the rest of them too, not just her. Because we were only 2 women in that office. The rest were all men. And they all snuck back into their cubicles acting like they didn't hear a word. I turned around and I asked one of my colleagues, did you hear what just happened? I can't get involved. I didn't hear anything. Are you kidding me? You are that weak. See, this is the difference between alphas and betas. I was apparently swimming in a sea full of betas who did not know their power and were a bunch of sheep who could easily be brought to slaughter. As long as it didn't affect them, they were okay. And I'm sharing this story specifically because this is a powerful experience I went through. And bringing this awareness, there's more to the story. There's more to it all. Even prior to that, the company I worked with before that had screwed me over in a few different ways. One that almost didn't allow me to stay in Italy because I didn't even know that they illegally were piggybacking on an old Italian work visa that I had with the previous job I had with Northrop Grumman. They proceeded to not submit the paperwork and just act like they didn't need to do anything. Yet they also withheld money that they were supposed to pay me, and that when I realized, hey, you guys owe me a good chunk of change here for this extra pay that I was supposed to receive. And this was 5 months down the road, and I'm like, hey, what about this pay? Do you know what they did? I got a bully tactic done to me. I was told, well, I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not going to pay you that because that's probably a mistake. But if you pursue it, they'll probably sever the contract and, they'll probably hire someone else. I should have called their bluff because after that, I was also berated in a job evaluation. When they give you a job review, I worked by myself and I worked in NATO at that job. And in that position, I got nothing but accolades from the people I was working with. And these people were in the UK, and I knew them from when I was in the Air Force. That was another good old boy club. I knew those guys because I used to date one of the group guys. And the guy that I dated was a nice guy. But it's still birds of a feather, people. You can say one person's good, but, the spoiled apples spoil the bunch. So you can have one good person and a whole bunch of bad people. That still shows the character of the good person that is aligning with the bad ones. I'm just saying. So they gave me a poor review because of another guy who came down from the UK who proceeded, and this one knew me from when we were stationed in Omaha, Nebraska. He was a piece of work because he used to live across the hall, and those guys used to peek out the peepholes because they lived across the hall from me and watch and stalk me. It was weird. And so when I heard that he went back to the office and said, I don't know how she's doing such a great job, I didn't see it. Well, he was in the process of doing other stuff that wasn't in my workspace and proceeded to tell them negative things about me. But meanwhile, I didn't see him either because he was always gone and he was doing his thing because he was in the process of buying a house up in the UK. When it came down to changing jobs, because I was like, you know what, I got to get away from this stuff because I can't handle this. I'm not working with unethical individuals any longer. I was within 10 days of finishing my contract. I had to have at least 1 year contract or I would have to pay back the relocation amount because they paid to relocate me from Bratislava, Slovakia down to Italy. So I gave my notice. And I didn't realize the notice. They contacted me kind of like a little concerned. And they said, wait, hey, we noticed that you're submitting your resignation, and you know that your contract technically isn't going to be a year until this date. If you sever it before that, they're going to expect you to pay your relocation money back, which is actually not normally true. They charge it to the government. So technically, they can try to say that. But again, it was another one of those bully tactics. I said, okay, fine. On the day of my last day fulfilling the year contract, I'm done. Even though they needed me to finish it out longer, I was done. And I was clear about it. I said, no, I'm not giving you any more. Not after all of what I experienced with you people. And I was done. And I moved on to the next company, which is the one that landed me in the biggest mess of my life, which completely destroyed my career. So I went through a major life crisis, a major life death, rebirth, like identity crisis, everything from what am I going to do next? Because now I've been blacklisted and I couldn't even get a job. I didn't know it at the time. I was already trying to pursue a job with NATO. I was putting and fielding out offers. I couldn't find anything to stay in that area quickly enough. And so when I was fired because of this hostile threat that took over, it blew me away. I thought, there's no possible way that they could get away with threatening me and then telling me that I'm the problem and fire me. I didn't even think about filing for unemployment either. That was a whole nother other conversation. But every time I would apply for jobs, and I'm telling you, I never had to apply for jobs before, I was being told, no, I'm sorry, you're not what we're looking for. And I later received a phone call from one guy who was a Navy chief. Years later, I was back here in the US. I had to relocate myself. I didn't even get a plane ticket from my company, which they were obliged to do. They wouldn't answer emails. When my program manager came to Italy, the other manager, Kevin Monis, would not even answer his phone to make an interview. I said, hey, I want to have a sit-down appointment with him. And he said, no problem. They all lied to my face. None of them responded to my emails, my phone calls. The company left me hanging dry. When the program manager did come to town, I had to hunt him down to sit down with him. And then he sat across the table and proceeded to tell me how he's going to take care of me, and I'm so sorry, whatever we can do, maybe even bring you out to Japan, because that's where he was. And the truth of the matter is, they were all lies. They were all lies. Does this give you any insight into what goes on behind the scenes in the government and contracting and military environment? So the previous company was defrauding the government by using my Soggiorno, my Italian permit. Wish I'd known that then. I would have thrown their asses up against the wall. And if I knew anybody to support me, I would have totally taken that to court. I couldn't even get anybody to support me, but I was supporting everybody else. And that was my wake-up call this week, that I realized that the theme was, if you're not doing for yourself what you do for others, you're not demonstrating. You're not going to get it in return from others. You can't expect others to do for you what you do for them. What I mean by that is you need to really closely evaluate the why. What is your why you do what you do? What I do what I do because that's who I am. I'm not going to apologize for any of it. I'm not going to dismiss myself, or I'm definitely not going to feel bad for doing things that make me feel good. But I've had it turned around on me. I have felt like crap for doing good things because people didn't appreciate it. They didn't see my value, though they had no problem taking from me what I was given. And I'm not bitter about it. Here's the key. I'm not bitter about it because I've gotten better over the years. But man, that was the toughest thing, because not being able to find work, I went from really good pay to having to find my way, having to start completely from scratch. My relationship at that time was completely volatile on top of everything else. So it didn't make it that much easier that I'm juggling the hostile work environment. And then I had honestly, I had an alcoholic, drug addicted boyfriend at the time. And I didn't know how bad that was till I stepped away and I saw the patterns. And that's where the blessing without the bow comes in. Because I remember being in Villa Comunale with my dog, with my mom on the phone and going, Mom, I'm not ready to leave this place. This is my home. And I have just been forced out by unethical individuals, by people who have absolutely no integrity and authenticity, that are cutthroat. They don't care about anybody else but themselves. That was a huge, hard wake-up call. That was the most difficult time of my life, to really see that everything in my world was crashing down around me, and I couldn't get the government to give me any feedback. The military, government, they just dismissed it and said, well, they can do whatever they want. The military, they acknowledged the disrespectful soldier. They knew there was a problem, but they didn't do anything for me. They told me to go back to my company, which they didn't do anything for me either. And I had filed complaints with my company. I had already filed complaints against Kevin Moniz and the whole situation with our company, because we had people in the office who didn't do anything but pass on the work to us. It was tough. And it was challenging because trying to hold other people accountable when you know you're doing the right thing. On the one hand, it's not my place, but on the other hand, I couldn't say nothing. I couldn't stand back and act like it wasn't happening, like a lot of people were, because that's not my nature. When people are being taken advantage of and treated poorly, I speak up. And that's what I was doing, and I was the one who took the fall for all. That's what I mean by taking the fall upon the sword and being the sacrificial lamb. I took the fall for everyone who couldn't even speak up, nor was willing to speak up for themselves or me. They'd all complain amongst each other. They complained to me. They tell me the same thing. But when it came down to it, they weren't going to do anything about it. They were continuing to support the bad behavior. But if we had banded together, it would have been a whole different situation. It's a huge lesson. And it's very unfortunate I had to experience that. That nobody should ever have to experience that. So when the Navy chief calls me up within that year, and he asked me, he said, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you right now that I've heard through the grapevine, I've heard a story, and I want to hear your side. He says, because I understand how things go. Yeah, I'm a retired chief. So when I shared the story, I told him exactly what I told you. He apologized. He said, I am sorry that you experienced that. It's the first person that even apologized to me. He said, I'm sorry that happened, because the unfortunate thing is they were doing a disservice to that sailor and to all the other sailors around there, because that's what causes the problems in the future. We had already had, because of the environment, one sailor who PCS'd back to the U.S., who popped positive on his drug test before he had left, and because he was doing cocaine downtown. If you don't mentor people when they are behaving poorly, they will continue down that slippery slope into unnecessary behaviors that bring them into these situations. So he was brought back on taxpayer dime and wearing an orange vest. Look at that. If they had only just been a mentor, that would have never happened. Now, did I get that job? No. And that's okay. But the unfortunate thing is when you're blacklisted in the community, people don't even want to be associated with you. They don't even want you to put them down as a reference on your resume, because they're afraid how that's going to look and reflect upon them. I even had an ex-boyfriend do that to me. Like, hey, whatever you do, don't mention me. Really? Really? That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. Fast forward. That was in 2008. It was this time. It exactly happened in February of 2008. And it started to unfold and unravel. And I was trying to find ways to How do I work with this? Like I said, I was trying to contact the company. I was going through the government and the military. Nobody was giving me any support. Nobody was giving me direction. I didn't know what to do. My mom was trying to figure out what she could do over here. She supposedly contacted people, but they didn't even do anything to follow through and help me. And I don't know if that's because people throw their hands up like, I don't want to get involved in this, or what. But the truth of the matter is that I didn't have the support that would have really helped, and would have eliminated continuous problems down the line, and maybe even served those people who didn't have the guts or the strength or the power, the willpower to speak up. So what is your why you do what you do is a big question. As a result of that, I decided, you know what? With my volatile relationship, which I did go back and forth to Italy for several years, every summer and often, because I had a long distance relationship. And it was me recognizing patterns in my life. The pattern of when you are the type of person who is constantly on the defense, you always feel like you're attacked, that's a trauma response. Are you somebody that when someone accuses you of something, then you immediately go on the defense? Thinking you need to defend something, even though you're not guilty, even though you didn't do anything wrong, but because in your past, that's all you've ever done is defend yourself. You don't even stop to question, wait a minute here. Could you explain to me what it is you're accusing me of? Because I don't agree. And I think you're taking it out of context, and I think you're misunderstanding, or this situation isn't what you're claiming it to be. See, you need to diffuse the accuser. I didn't know that for years. It's a trauma response. When you go into the defense, when coping mechanism, I'm afraid. When you go into fight, flight, freeze, or fear, in that case you freeze because you don't know what to do, or you react by spewing out explanations, excuses that aren't even necessary. Like, you don't have to defend yourself. You need to really reevaluate what is being presented to you, no matter how it's coming at you. Like, you need to take a deep breath and lean into what is it you're feeling. Is this bringing up emotions? Because when you're in an emotional state, you're immediately brought back into whatever that trigger is created. So if that is an old trauma response and you're in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and you're realizing that there's emotions, you're going to go into re-experiencing defending yourself at whatever age it initially started, and every time since there. As a result, you're not going to be rational. Everything that comes out of your mouth that's going through your mind is going to be irrational. Because when we're emotional, we're irrational. And when that happens, you can't speak, think, or act clearly. If anything, you'll mess up and you'll make mistakes. You may even volunteer information that gets you into more hot water and trouble that's not even necessary. So, with that said, I started looking at my patterns. I started on the healing path. My sister sent me the law of attraction. I returned home. I get back to Italy. I started looking into other avenues like acting and modeling. Started going to the Venice Film Festival. I did Date with Destiny with Anthony Robbins in December of 2008. Changed my life completely because I started to recognize my promoting habits and my demoting habits. See, you can want, wish, and desire something, but in the background, if you don't feel worthy of it, you're creating your own push-pull. You're being held back by your lack of worth and value for reaching for what it is you really want. You'll never get that far until you acknowledge, you go back into the worthiness arena and you duke it out and say, I am worthy. I know I am. Because we can say we feel it, we know we are, I know I deserve this, this is for me, this is right. But if you don't, on a very subtle level, really truly believe that, you can say it all you want, you can fake it till you make it, but you really need to confront the why wouldn't you think you're worthy? Because there's a lot of conditioning. You got a lot of layers to peel off from the time you were a child and you knew you were pure and you were source and you were perfect in God's image. You have a lot of layers to peel back to bring you back to your purity. to your knowing, your truth, your Satnam. So it takes, emotions to rise to the surface and you to confront and lean into them. Take a deep breath. Like a lot of times you don't want to feel the emotions. They're there for a reason. They're there to guide you. They're like your GPS. The emotion that arises, it's felt somewhere in your body. Emotions come from here. Emotions register in the body, and the mind translates to the body because the body is always listening. It keeps score. The body is demonstrating your mind. You can believe it or not. So, back to, are you living on purpose, with direction? Why? What is your why? What motivates you? If you don't know what it is that drives you to do what you do, it's like just freeballing it all over the place. And you have no guidance. You're just going with the whatever, not the flow. Unconscious, like, well, whatever comes my way, I'll take it. See, that's the thing. A lot of times you don't value things because they're given to you. But when you achieve, there is a natural release of happy hormones and chemicals physiologically, like it's an internal reward system. We don't need validation from anyone else. All we need to do is set a goal, achieve it, and that success of achieving it registers in the body. Once again, the mind, the body is a reflection and telling you. Look, the body's telling on the mind. Yay, we're happy, do the happy dance, And that's why they say, if you are feeling something, your mind is going through things, to shake it up, move the body, go take a walk, dance it out. Because you got to balance it out. If one is off balance, you got to do it with the other. That if your nervous system is fried, you got to do something to shake it up and strengthen it. That's why I do Kundalini Yoga. That's why I teach it. It's powerful. But you have to recognize your why. You have to recognize if you have a why. And if you don't, I'm almost 100% convinced that the majority of the people with depression and anxiety don't have a goal or a purpose in mind. And that would depress anyone, wouldn't it? So look at what's happened over this past year. People's worlds turned upside down, livelihoods lost, careers destroyed, businesses blown up and leveled to the ground. Let's say, totally gone. Here's one. What if your internet was gone and you no longer saw me, you no longer had access? I don't think anybody ever thinks like that. But that's just as much as being ostracized as losing your job and your livelihood. Because that's essentially what I experienced 12 years ago, and I didn't calculate it until the other day. How much that resembled what's gone on this past year. That when you have to isolate, you feel ostracized, you feel disconnected, that you're lacking something. You're like, something in my life is missing. And especially single people, we know, if you don't have a partner in your life, you're like going, it'd be nice to have someone in my life right now, right? That's just a normal thing. When you don't have, you're missing something. If you don't know what your purpose is, you don't have a goal, of course you're going to feel something's missing. Of course you're going to feel depressed and anxious because you don't even know what it is you want to do the next day, because the next thing you do has to be a part of like where you're going, doesn't it? So your purpose is what drives you. It's what motivates you. It's what carries you forward. It's the spirit within, and it should come from your heart and soul. If it's coming from your head, it could get you in some trouble. Because most of us are conditioned with all these layers we got to peel off of society of what that's supposed to look like, what success looks like. Like even my situation when I was working the job I was doing, you got to grow up and you got to get good grades so you can get a good college, so you can get a good job, so you can get good pay, so you can make money, maybe get married and have some children and buy a house and have all this stuff, keeping up with the Joneses. whatever you want to call it. But there's this like, this is what you're supposed to do. Nowadays it's different because now all the kids, God forbid if I had to grow up in this current time, I would flip out. Because most of the kids are being conditioned to think through technology, instant gratification, lack of connection. They're lacking something. They don't realize it's connection with humans. Human interaction. There's so much more in their technology. Because the technology leaves you devoid of the emotion that actually happens with two people. I would gladly give up technology if it meant I would have people around all the time. I'd rather that any day. Because that's a richer life. But if you don't have purpose, and some of these kids are being taught that if you can get overnight success, you can go on TikTok and you can become an influencer just doing little dances and stuff. Look, I'm cute and I'm adorable, because that's what they're doing, targeting that. There's a whole agenda behind that. Think about it. I go on there, I got a bunch of children trolling me, telling me how I'm ugly. I'm too old for this app. I should go back to another app. Like, seriously, bullying. I never saw bullying that bad when I was younger. Never that direct. And yet, it's rewarded nowadays. Yet, people would say it's not right to bully, yet the same people saying it's not right are the ones bullying too. What is going on here, people? If you don't have purpose, a real, true, heart-guided soul purpose, then of course, yeah, I understand where you're feeling the lack, the disconnect. So with all that story told, I came on to do a smoothie, of course. Yeah, and instant gratification, it's short-lived, isn't it? And it's a drug. It's an addiction. I facilitate addiction programs. So this is a part people don't understand. It's temporary. This could go away anytime. And I've really sat with that over these past months. People don't understand. I've lost my Facebook account, my original one. The one that was actually the original, like you had to be invited to Facebook to get it. That was my 2007 when I lived in Italy. It's in my entire life. They stole my identity. They stole my personal content. My life. They got it. I'm a computer person. They got that on a server somewhere. That account might have been disabled for me to see, but it's existing. They've stolen all of my information. I didn't say they could keep that. And I know what it's like to lose your identity. Not just once, not just twice, but several times. So losing my job in Italy, I lost my livelihood. I'm no longer the professional IT systems engineer that I was. So I had to make a new life for myself. And I started on the wellness path. And all these years, I thought, wow, I'm starting to find my flow, my groove. I've been in fitness all my life. This is my passion. This is my life. That's why the other day when I realized, oh my gosh, that Yoga Warrior campaign that I'm asking every one of you, please vote for me. The link is right up here. Please do. I would truly appreciate it, because your vote is a success in itself. You supporting me is a support for you. And that I'm asking, it costs you nothing. If you're on Facebook, you're watching me, all you got to do is click the link and vote every day, every 24 hours. Set an alarm on your phone. This is the least you can do. Costs nothing. It takes 1 minute. You cast your free vote every 24 hours. If I win, you win. Think of it that way. Because that's how success works. We humans fail to recognize that success is not a singular thing. Success is all of us. Life, humans in unity, is all of us. And if we're not humans in unity and we're disconnected, then we're not in humanity. Humanity dies. Think about that. So that's where I really had this fire under me going, I'm going to win this. I'm going to ask for help. I don't ask for help. This is my opportunity. Because if I get the money, I get this award, I get $10,000, I'm going to fix up this property. I'm going to start doing wellness programs in my home. And I am going to use the opportunity through Yoga Journal and that feature to also promote what I am getting ready to launch with a girlfriend of mine, this beautiful modality. It's a healing modality. It will help millions, billions, I don't know. That's our vision. That's just one of many. But the truth of the matter is, I can't do it alone. And I honor that. I know that. I need you. I need your support to share, to like, to comment, do whatever you can do to blow up, to give me your undying support. Because here's the thing, if you've been watching me long enough and I have contributed to your life in any way whatsoever, this is one small request. 24 hours every day until April 29th, when they decide the winner. If I win this, you can see me rise in success and you can come join me. That's the beauty is you get to be a part of my journey and I get to be a part of yours even more. To me, that is the beauty of life, and that's what it's all about. Humans are meant to be in unity. That's why it's humanity. That life is about relationship. That if we don't have relationship, that's where we feel less than, because we are meant to contribute, to relate to one another. That human contribution, evolution is a part of those hierarchical needs. They're powerful needs. We need to feel needed. We need to feel we contribute. We need to feel important, that we belong. If we don't feel like we're connected to others, we don't feel like we're here. Like if we don't have someone else to witness us, to be a part of our lives, we might as well be dead. That's what it feels like, isn't it? Haven't you? I know I'm not the only one who's felt this way. That when I've been at my worst moments, I haven't felt like I've been connected to others. I feel like I'm dead inside. I've felt that. Losing my Facebook account the first time, I literally felt like my heart sink, like I had died, because that's how technology is addictive. A lot of people don't realize it, but when you've been on it for as long as I have, and you've been as committed as I have, some people, they're like, whatever, I'm just disabling it, it's no big deal. But the thing is that when you were so devoted to something and it goes away like that because they got the power to do that, it's like death. And that's what change is. Change is like death. And you have to go through the mourning process. You have to acknowledge that there is something that has gone. It is dead. It has died off. And you have to mourn it because it's no longer a part of your life. If it comes back, great. But that attachment to it is what causes the suffering. That attachment is what causes the disconnect. Because whenever we lose something, we feel like we've lost a piece of ourselves. That's a true statement. And if you don't have purpose, it's easy to fall into depression and anxiety. We need to be able to contribute to one another. If we don't feel we can contribute, that's why it's important to give everyone a voice. That's why it's so important to not silence people. Even if you don't want to hear them, they deserve to be able to speak their truth. Even if you don't agree with it, you need to honor it if you want to be honored. You can't say just because you don't like something that it's not okay for people to do or say it. The truth is, when you silence one, you silence it all. And when people are told that they don't matter, that their voice doesn't matter and what they have to say doesn't matter, that's the same thing as you canceling them out. You see where I'm going with this, and I don't even have to say anything. When you cancel someone out, you're saying they're not relevant. You're ostracizing them, telling them that they're not important, that what they have to say it doesn't matter, that they don't matter, because people associate what they say with themselves as mattering and being relevant. That's the relationship. If you're not willing to hear someone or relate to them, there's a disconnect. It's about relating, relaying a message. It's like a ping pong match. You bring back and forth, bring back and forth. And we all deserve that, and we need that. That's part of life. Butterfly, pea blossom, rose petals, and I think there's pineapple in this. No, there's no pineapple, but it's super yummy kombucha. And since I don't drink wine very often, I have beautiful wine glasses to drink it in. And this wonderful man who came to Naples, Italy, and I gave him a tour of the old complex at NATO, he had these made for me because I took time out of my day to spend with him and hear his stories. And I think that's what we all deserve. It's just someone's time is precious. And this is my purpose, is to serve. So let's make a smoothie. It'll be short. Let me know in the comments how you're doing today. You know, this is my favorite. We got a scooper upper. Scoop. So I've been sitting and just acknowledging some really powerful messages because I know that what I feel, what I pick up on with the collective, it's not just me. This is happening across the board. We're coming into an upgrade. Like the old is gone and we're all mourning what we knew, but we have to make space and go through the motions and emotions and let it move us and guide us. Lean into it, breathe with it. Like, oh, this doesn't feel so good, but what is it going to teach me? Because it's bringing you to something better. Just like I told my story. What I went through, that major loss and death of my life, brought me to here today. I would not be here speaking to you. I would not be, so committed to serving and wellness and healing for so many people had it not been for that experience. That as much as it was painful, and I mean that, like I didn't really realize until recent how much I struggled with that. I'm feeling it now. And I didn't realize how much I really do desire certain things in my life, that I wasn't stepping up and saying, that's it, I want that, and I'm going to go for it. No, you know what? I was just grateful for what I had. And that's great too. But you also need to recognize, sometimes you have to pursue more than just the everyday mundane. I'm not an everyday mundane person, by the way, either. I'll just leave it at that. My life has been a series of magic and miracles. I rely on them, and I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for everything that's ever happened in my life, even when I didn't like it at the time. So this is some vitamin C, Vitex berry powder. I got to look up exactly what the information is on this, but we're going to do about half a teaspoon. It's already challenging enough with the numbers going down on social media and just trying to find the visibility. This is some brownie that I made with my oil. It's kind of hard, so what I'm going to do is throw it in here because when it breaks up, it'll be kind of like having a chocolate chip. I might have to break this one up. Oh, that one's too hard. See, life is never going to be the same again. And I want you to just come to terms with that. What that means is, like, for all of us, we're being confronted with what is a priority in your life? What is it you want to experience from this time forward? Are you okay with where you're at in the moment? Is there something bigger and better that you are seeking, striving, and wanting in your life? Because life is too short to just accept the mediocre. That's just my opinion. And maybe that's all you want. And that's okay too. Maybe your purpose is serving someone a meal every day, or teaching children, or don't shortchange yourself if it's not some grandiose plan or vision, because every single purpose is important. Every role, everybody has a role, and it's important for all of us to step into it and not dismiss it as being less than. There is not one person out there that doesn't deserve to be happy. Happy in what you're doing. It should fuel you. It should not deplete you or exhaust you. If it depletes you or exhausts you, you know it's up in here. Because the heart, it feels good when you're doing what you need to be doing. And you know that. I don't even have to tell you. We need a little collagen because my forehead needs 46 years old, I'm just saying. Listen, I've got a lot of humility. I have no problem with my strengths and my weaknesses. Ain't nobody got anything they can hold against me anymore. My dad used to always say, never volunteer information. I understand what he meant, but I was just very naive for a long time in my life. I didn't think I ever had anything I needed to hold back on. I didn't realize people would seek out ways to destroy others by using things against them that they were their own. All right, cherry time. A cherry in my kombucha. Major epiphanies. Just start recognizing wherever you're at, honor it. Honor whatever comes up for you. The more you're willing to sit with whatever's coming up and arising in your life, the easier it's going to be to move forward. Because when you create space in areas in your life that you're resisting, you can move with less baggage, with less heavy weight holding you back. Because the only reason we feel resistance is because we're holding on to something. Think about that. Like even in the physical body, I was teaching class earlier today and I was saying, when you feel resistance and tension in your body, it's because what you're doing is holding on to and anticipating. A lot of times we're anticipating pain, so we're creating it at the same time. And when you anticipate it, you tense up and you create it. It's like, wait a minute, soften into that. Breathe into that. And that's the same with the mind and the emotions. Like whatever comes up, be willing to be like, oh man, that doesn't feel so good. Let me breathe into it. You can create space and it will move a lot quicker than if you keep on tensing up, which will hold it longer, tighter, and it'll become more painful. That's where the disease is. That's what that is. The crazy thing is I don't think I'm the most intelligent person on the planet, but I think this stuff is pretty apparent to me. I don't know. I guess I take a lot for granted. I definitely understand that most people don't understand what it's like to be in a military or government environment. So this past year really reminded me about that, because people look at me like, what do they say? I got two heads when I say certain things. I was walking along the waterfront. There was a wonderful woman that I had a great conversation with last time. Her dog, my dog were meeting. Her dog's a little bit scared, but then she was warming up to Buddy and it was really cute. And I saw her last night and I said, oh, it's so good to see you. I've been thinking about you. She goes, me too. It's good to see you. And I guess she works in healthcare, and God bless her. I was a guinea pig. I was in the Air Force. I'm not letting anybody poke or inject anything else further into my body anymore. I've had enough of that. So she made mention of it, and I was like, oh. I said, you know what, though? That's good for you. If you feel good about what you're doing, I'm not going to say anything. That's your choice, and I honor that. But me, no. I'm good. Thanks. At first, she kind of made a look at me like, why not? And I'm like, listen, I was in the Air Force. I've had plenty of shots. I don't need any more. And God created me in his perfect image. Why would I think that anything man-made is better for it? Just saying. Shake it up, baby. Shake it up, baby. Snapchat. look at these. Nice and thick. Maybe I should put the kombucha in there. That's kind of cool with the brownie in it. Oh, in fact, speaking of which, this needs a little bit. I will put a little bit of kombucha in there because this kombucha is really good. So you got to be careful about food combining. That's something I need to. It's hard to explain to people. Sometimes I have so much knowledge up in this thing that I'm like going, wow, you know, to explain to somebody the reasons why I do some of the things I do is kind of crazy. Because I have so much that I already do for a reason, but I can't remember the reasons. So I have to look it back up, like food combining. Things that require an acidic, different types of pH in the stomach to digest, like proteins versus like carbs and fats. Certain foods don't combine well. All right, we need ginger. We're gonna put some vanilla stevia and a little bit of the almond extract because I find that the almond extract complements with the cherry and chocolate really nicely. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I have frozen bananas and cherries, water, a little bit of that kombucha. I'm gonna put some ginger in there. I'm gonna put ginger. Ginger's good for the belly and digestion. We got a lot of ginger. In fact, I've got turmeric growing out back that I need to harvest. And tomorrow's a new moon. FYI, my sister and I were just talking about new moon ceremony earlier. I'm going to put this much of the ginger in there. That's a lot. Basically, on a new moon, you want to set your intentions after the time of the new moon. Write down in a journal. You can do a vision board. Whatever it is you want to envision and manifest. And one of mine, you already know, is to win this Yoga Warrior. So I'm pretty jazzed. I am super on purpose now. So that was what the Yoga Warrior competition kind of reawakened in me as I realized, you know, the past several weeks I started questioning. If you watched my video last night, I started questioning, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I really on the right path? Do I need to start seeking out avenues in other arenas? Do I need to start looking at jobs back in IT? Which honestly, I don't plan on that. The other day I was on LinkedIn, and you know, in LinkedIn, they give you these, you know, suggested jobs and all this stuff. And I thought, let me just look and see what's in this area. And sure enough, I looked a little bit. I looked at some jobs in the IT. Boy, they're not paying what I used to work for, but, and I'm not even that current and up to date on the current software and all that. Now, don't mind me. I can pretty much figure anything out if you give it to me. I was always very good about that. I'm a quick learner. I'm a quick study. But no, I have no desire to go back into that world, especially in the government. I mean, yeah, I used to think I would take a NATO job because in NATO, they have a really good severance pay, like retirement benefits. It's better than the government here. If you look at government workers, the way that their retirement and all that is, you only put in so much time. NATO's the bomb. I can't remember all the benefits, but I realized after the first time I worked in NATO when I was stationed in Belgium, and I worked with a bunch of NATO workers, they were talking about some, like, they get, like, I think government workers in the U.S. get 30 days of holidays after you build up your time. Same thing. Military is not even that good. But with NATO, it's something like almost 3 months. It's just crazy. NATO takes care of their people. And that's across all the countries. Again, it's the good old boy network. That's all I can say. It's a patriarch. And that's dying, people. I mean, people need to start considering what is it that will really truly bring you happiness and joy. A lot of these traditional jobs aren't going to cut it anymore. We have to be creating new. We have to be solution oriented. Like, we are pioneers now at this stage for the new, for the future, for our children, for, you know, what's going to happen down these years. Like, what's going to be acceptable, not in the now, but for real. This isn't, things are going to go back to normal, people. I hope none of you are buying into that idea, because that went out the window when people started complying with this. I'm sorry. It's not healthy. It's not God. It is not God's way. Live. We're here to live. You know what evil is? It's when you're not living. It's live backwards. It's live inverted. It looks like I'm drinking wine, doesn't it? Welcome to my kitchen. I'm making a beautiful smoothie. Now I'm going to pop it up. Actually, you would not, unless it's a warm wine. Hold it by the goblet. Ready to shake it up, baby. Shake it up, baby. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, work it on out. Work it on out. I even got a little poochie going on here. This is because I haven't been eating that great, but I have been getting back into my, trying to hips, because see, I'm like a Rice Krispie treat here, people. I snap, crackle, and pop regularly. Like, woohoo. Snap, snap. All right, a little more. I think I got about 5 hours of sleep last night. I'm an insomniac. I'm just going to say it. I don't even know how the heck I make it day by day sometimes. So even if you don't have the time all the time, if you could share my link and encourage people to support me to win the Yoga Warrior competition. Again, please, 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 with a cherry on top. Cherry in my kombucha. Buddy's stirring because it's his time to shine. That's good. That'll work. All right, people. Pour it in. That's pure love there, darlings. And I want you to know, ooh, yeah. Haha. And it wouldn't be right without Lana's lick of approval. Anyway, cheers to all of you. I appreciate you for all that you do. Please, again, every 24 hours, I need you. I want your vote, because I'm going to win this. Have an amazing evening. I love you very much.